Okay, so here I am in a parking lot by Ross in Morgan Hill. Downtown's over that way. That's where it turns into downtown community center there. And this is for the Marissa and Mellow Bucks playlist, right? Marissa DiNapoli. There's Ross here. And notice that people are parked here in a way that's somewhat suspicious, right? Why park right there? If you're going to Ross, there's Ross even open? I guess it is. And that's kind of a little strange here. Okay, it has something to do with that dog thing there, but it just strikes you as a little bit odd. But that's neither here nor there. Maybe it's not odd. One thing's for sure is that I added a lot of videos recently to my Marissa DiNapoli, playlist. It's called Marissa Mellow Bucks playlist. And as I was scrolling down my videos list, a lot of these videos were very key, including the Live Oak video I made. I think it's titled something else. It's titled like I was right and everyone else in Santa Clara County was wrong. And it was about me having a higher cause as a teenager, wanting to get people together, wanting to network. Back then I happened to smoke weed back then, so I had more than one reason to want to network with people, and the kind of barriers that I came across as I tried to network with people. In fact, when I was younger, there used to be a Togo's over there where that noodle house is, and one time me and my little brother were there and we're hanging out. Well, I'll leave that story for another day. But I used to come over here with some friends, sometimes with my little brother, what have you. And when I used to walk also up and down this street right here, East Dunn, where it turns into West Dunn. There's Barnell back then. I used to go there over there sometimes. Okay. But the main purpose of this video is to talk about how righteousness is greater than being a thug. It's greater than being a conformist. It's greater than everything else. So when we look back at high school, right? Marissa was 18 when she was murdered. When you think about the groups that they have there, they try to sell you the idea that that the thugs and maybe the populars are the most sort of respectable groups, right? Because it's a cultural failure of society to have groups that are really worthwhile, that have lives that are worthwhile, and people are putting extras on their lives and how what they do after school, and they're trying to pretend that they're important and they're cool, and so on and so forth. Even the fact that one of the groups are called is called populars is a testament to the mentality there. They think that the answer is to try to feign importance. So as a popular, like say these people there, right, when they're younger, are they really the number one group? No. Being a gangster with heart goes beyond being a popular, right? Where Al Capone is insufficient is where he is a grimy criminal who rose through the ranks in a way that is perhaps unfair. Certainly unfair, rather. Okay, so they're trying to make it harder for me to talk. They're fuming. Let me just wrap this up here. So what goes beyond a gangster, right, is a righteous martial artist, but they try to make it seem corny, and I go over this all the time, right? Flanders and Simpsons, what have you, Joel Osteen, Billy Graham, Pat Robertson, these guys are corny. And there's a lot of people in America who don't miss that for a moment. So when they say, what do they want to be? They choose to be something else. And sometimes it's a druggie, right? A rocker, a thug, a gangster, okay, a goth, K-pop, or whatever these kids are doing, this new age stuff, all garbage. Why would anyone choose to be a new age person when they could rally to the top martial arts ever possible? And that's key in where society goes wrong. The mask is kind of falling over my face here. So when they kept me from being front and center, when they reduced my looks, when they made it so I had to wear like the same outfit every day, I wash it all the time, I wash it every day, but they made it so I had to do that, and I have other pairs of shoes that are new, I can't wear them because they mess up my body. They use some kind of technology to do it that way. What happened is they reduced people's chances. They greatly diminished their chances of finding something that's better than the cultures they have. And a huge part of that video I made was the failure of not just Live Oak, but every school in Santa Clara County, right? San Jose High, Gunderson, Blackbird, okay, Andrew Hill, Overfield, you name it. They failed to have cultures that were worthwhile. And they try to, quote unquote, make the best of it. Should a serial killer keep being a serial killer and make the best of it? Should human traffickers, should people in drug cartels, should people live in a corrupt government life? I mean, it's ridiculous. That's obviously not the answer. I'm going to have to take off my mask here. Bear with me. So that's obviously wasn't the answer for them. The answer was to find the optimum path, the optimum way to relate to each other in a way that's universally fair and just and right. Just like I brought up in a couple of videos ago, right? It's the last video I made, then I recorded that police incident. Should Harry Potter pretend he's the champion of the world and get everyone else to pretend with him and coerce him and fume him and screen out people who won't? That's retarded. That's not worthwhile. That's pathetic. And if you ran it by people just like that, they would agree. So why then cheat me when I'm the top martial artist ever possible? What are they trying to replace me with? The evolution of people wearing wigs, right? The colonists with their muskets and wigs. It's not the same thing. The church's conception and projection of quote-unquote righteousness, it's obviously not holy. It's obviously not righteous. I can't stress this enough. There's another video I added to the playlist, or at least to another playlist I made about key videos I missed out on. I can't remember which, but it was a video about the church founders. You can just tell they are mediocre. Whether we're talking about what they know about the Catholic Church or Orthodox, Baptist, Pentecostal, Lutheran, these are regular, mediocre people who don't deserve to establish a church, and it's clear cut. And I know it's controversial to say that, but it's the truth. And people refusing to admit this, people refusing to admit the insufficiencies of their cultures has caused this country to fall down to the extreme. It's caused the whole planet to fall. As 9 million people starve to death every year. As there's 50,000 suicides every year in this country alone. Why? Because the cultural insufficiencies. When they look at the situation, what they get from it, and they're usually not far from right, okay? What they get from it, or far from wrong, depending on the situation, one could argue, what they get from it is that there's no hope. Because the cultures have created a situation where the economy's bad, where social relations are bad, where politics is bad. So when they look in terms of social, political, and economic justice, what they see is injustice. They see wickedness. They see despair. They see hopelessness. They see hostility. It is the failure of society to have cultures that's worthwhile that is massacring people with drug overdoses, with starvation, with stress, with mental health issues. And there's many people who do drugs who don't die of a drug overdose, but their life is drastically reduced. And so when people refuse to admit how things come together, they refuse to admit the deeper implications of group relations, individual relations, social relations, gender relations, race relations, there's social barriers, cultural barriers, financial barriers. When they refuse to admit these things and they refuse to come together and discuss these things effectively, not like some politicians, putting on a show, but to discuss these things honestly and effectively, we see all kinds of problems emerge. We see suffering, we see death, we see rape, we see domestic violence, we see child trafficking, we see all kinds of problems. So why won't society get together and address these problems? Because of their cultural failure. What is the essence of a culture? There's a spirit there, there's a way of thinking, there's an ideology, there's a mentality. And as people refuse to purge nonsense and wickedness from their mentality, from their being, from their state of existence, society slips more and more into decadence and depravity. And that's what's caused the crash of the economy. It's the philosophy behind the economy that has caused the crash of the economy. It's the hypocrisy. It's the injustice. It's the selfishness. It's the greed. It's all these things that come together to forge the driving force in the various cultures that come together to make up the country. There's a lack of a moral social cohesion. Having a social cohesion is not enough. It has to be a moral social cohesion. In the absence of that moral social cohesion, you see economic decadence. You see that it's undermining the process that would allow for people to pursue happiness in a way that's fair and just and right. And if they're not able to pursue that, then we see these mental health issues. We see over 100,000 drug overdoses because there's a cultural failure. There's a cultural failure because there's a philosophical failure. And I'm not talking about, nonsensical philosophy, ancient Greece philosophy. I'm talking about straightforward, universal, pinpointed moral precision versus putting this, that, and the other thing first. If people put other things before moral precision, then there's a cultural failure. And where there's cultural failure, there's a bad economy. Because the very definition of economy is how we deal with scarcity. Scarcity in regards to housing, in regards to jobs, in regards to healthcare. How we deal with inflation and how it relates to scarcity. People are scared to effectively deal with scarcity because there's a terrorist state. The government is terrorizing them. And we see that in various forms. We see that with the deportations. We see that with with a lack of a sound effort to reform the immigration system, to reform the government processes. When they don't change the processes of the government, then you see the failure of the social programs. They need a robust social, a process that includes a robust social program in regards to housing, healthcare, and food programs. Now again, the government goes out of its way to make it harder for me to discuss this. They're running a fucking psychological operation on me because the government is corrupt. Why would you run a psychological operation on a humanitarian son who's simply telling the truth if the government isn't corrupt? And with all these different organizations, right, Homeland Security, Department of Defense, FBI, CIA, right, Internal Affairs, local law enforcement, why did they all fail to bring me justice? It goes back to philosophy. The same failure we see in dating, we see in the immigration, we see in their healthcare policy, we see in their military-industrial complex, that same philosophical failure. And at the heart of it is Satanism. It's selfishness, it's greed, it's lust, it's idolatry. It's a refusal to tell the truth about things in a way that would allow for these things to be corrected. In the absence of a moral social cohesion, there's the absence of a moral social discussion. And that all equals the failure that we're seeing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. They're kind of fueling me and it kind of throw me off. But I think that we can all agree that society has failed. And we can all agree that the political parties are out of touch with the working class. And we can all agree that something should be done. But unless we discuss those things honestly, unless we tell the truth about what matters most, then society will continue to fail. The trajectory of technology will continue to finish people off. And that's where society is now. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. You know, I don't want to be redundant in their view, making it harder for me to think, interfering with my freedom of speech, my freedom of assembly, as they do every single day while they're censoring me on the internet, which makes it so I'm more likely to come out in public and give these speeches, which makes it so I'm more likely to come in contact with law enforcement. One of many processes that they put out there to make it so people don't effectively discuss effectively discuss these things, which is an outrage. The reason why these things don't get corrected because people don't effectively discuss these things. And they've made it unofficially illegal to effectively discuss these things. It is very sick, very sick. I'm not proud to be American. I'm not proud to be white because, and part white and part Jewish, because it's for white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy first and foremost that these things are being done, and that's sick. It's very, very shameful, very disgraceful.